Yes, actually, especially with the advent of AI and Chat GPT. And what AI doesn't realize is that all real estate is hyper local.
Yep.
So oftentimes the things that they're telling, not necessarily the potential seller, it would be the potential seller's siblings, let's just say, who are looking out for that person, that the information isn't necessarily correct for that community or that area.
Hi, this is Michael Travis from the Waterfront Agent Podcast. Today's guest is Tina Heaney, and she is a licensed realtor and team leader for Heaney Homes with Keller Williams Realty Metropolitan in Bedford, New Hampshire. She has 11 years of experience in real estate and a strong background in marketing for national and global brands. She brings a strategic, client-focused approach to helping buyers and sellers throughout central New Hampshire and surrounding markets. So let's see what we can learn. Welcome, Tina.
Hey, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, you are with the Keller Williams group down in Bedford.
Yes.
And so why don't you quickly tell me a little bit about how you started? And I know you have a bird in your logo.
I
And
do
there's a
have a bird in
reason
my
for,
logo.
I know, I saw that.
Yeah. Okay. So I was actually recruited into real estate. I have been a serial entrepreneur most of my adult life and at the time, I had wrapped up a cookie dough business that I had because I'd had a major ice climbing fall and I couldn't walk for 6 months. I had friends who had gotten their licenses and asked me to get my license and join their team. So that's what I did. Yeah, I got my license in June of 2015 and actually haven't looked back. What was the other question?
I can't remember who. Oh, we were talking birds. Yeah, I use a loon and I use a waterfowl and you use a flying one.
I use a chickadee.
Chickadee, that's right.
Chickadee. Yeah, I mean, it really represents New Hampshire. It represents Maine. In fact, Maine had a chickadee on its license plate until recently.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, with a little bit of, there's a pine cone and a little bit of like evergreen tree clipping. Yeah, it's looking forward. The colors represent sunrise. There's just a whole lot of symbolism in it.
Well, it could be sunset too, depending on
Could be
which way you're looking.
sunset. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're on the East Coast, so sunrise kind of works for me looking
All
up
right.
over the ocean.
Yeah. So I look out east, so I get the sunrises.
Yes,
It
same.
doesn't mean that I wake up sooner, by the way, but that's besides
I guess it depends on the time of year, really.
the point. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's awfully
So,
early right now.
so a lot of things have changed in the real estate business in the 11 years that you've been there and the 20 I've been here. What has been your experience of explaining to people the new buyer agent rules?
Well, I just let them know that the National Association of Realtors have settled a lawsuit and it became effective depending on, so in New Hampshire, it started July 7th, I believe. And in Maine, it started in August 2 years ago. And basically that changed the way most agents had conversations with their buyers and sellers. My conversations haven't really changed a whole lot. I'm a huge believer in transparency, and I let them know that if I'm working with buyers, the sellers may or may not cover part of my fee or all of it or none of it. And I do my best to collect part, at least part. Sometimes I'm able to collect all of that. And if not, they know they're basically on the hook isn't the right word. However, it's kind of appropriate. So we need to, really work at finding a home that will fit their entire budget. Because at the end of the day, the buyers bring the money to the sale, and that
Mhm.
I can't open a door without it. And what it does is it protects them in knowing that they have someone who is legally representing their best interests. It also protects me. It protects the seller. Everyone knows who's in the house at all times as a result.
Yep. No, that's all true. I know for a while in Florida, agents were charging a fee just to show properties
Wow.
because half the time we're tourists. Yeah, we're tour guides.
Mm-hmm.
I remind people that unlike attorneys who get paid up front to do nothing, we do everything and may get nothing.
Yeah, with the promise we might get something.
Might,
Yeah,
might, might.
I think that really, leads into being sure to qualify the people that you're looking to work with,
Yep,
and guiding them appropriately.
yep, yep. And I think I've always felt that what's good for the client's always good for me as an agent. And so, but when it comes to a listing, I encourage my sellers to consider. I mean, the buyers are still paying for the fee regardless, but by offering you know a, a fee to the buyer agent, you don't lose a lot of people. I mean,
Exactly.
it's like I think my first listing that the seller did not want to pay any buyer agent fee. There were 30 people at the open house, and it would have been multiple offers and
Mm-hmm.
probably over asking.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, we were lucky to get one, and a lot of people refused to even show it because the agents didn't want to be bothered with even showing a property that had no fee. All of which is negotiable that people don't realize. So, but those are some of the big changes in the lawsuits. Big change. Now we might be in a year of chaos. I think maybe there's things in the news that might affect. I don't know. Every day. Have you seen? Have you seen a market change this year versus last few
Yes,
years?
absolutely has. The market is definitely shifting toward more of a buyer market. And I have had those conversations with my sellers for the last few months, watching
Yep.
prices softening slightly and watching days on market grow, and being realistic. The market has shifted. And it's really important because unless it's cash, there's likely to be an appraisal. And who wants to be 7 to 10 days prior to closing when in your mind you've spent all that money or have it allocated, and suddenly we're renegotiating $10,000 to $20,000. I'd rather disappoint someone on the front end, and instead of disappointing them on the right before closing, because it's a tough negotiation at that point.
Well, and I think people are starting to realize. I mean, the average cost of a home in New Hampshire, tiny little itty bitty state, is still beyond what most buyers can do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, when you see, I mean, I don't know how you feel about this and say, oh, well, we're going to solve the housing by building all these condos.
Mm,
Not everyone wants a condo.
exactly.
They want a yard, a garage, and a pet, right? A pet. That's kind of, and then the other thing is that I've done some rentals, like short-term rentals. One is 18,000 a week. It got filled up. One guy wanted 4 weeks, wants two more at
Wow.
18,000. I know. But then the smaller ones, 2,500, 2,200, nobody's looking as
I think
much.
it has to do with an income. People
Well, yeah. I
who
mean,
have a lot of income.
it's a smaller, it's a family versus a family reunion, where there's a whole bunch of
Right.
people contributing, and that's, that's what I found. And I've also found surprisingly, and you'll probably, I'm sure you see it in your market there, that there are a lot of sales of just regular homes, believe it or not, in the $1 million to $2 million range.
A lot of them, far more than I saw a year ago. Hmm.
That's right. But then I'm also seeing the 3 million, like even the waterfronts are softening.
Yes.
But the 5 million, the high end stuff, that those are the same. Those buyers are, that they just have the money. So, but I thought that was an interesting trend that we're seeing regular houses in the high end houses, and Bedford, of course, is all high end houses. I'm going to say,
Pretty much. Yeah.
yeah, and that there was much more this year than I was surprised. You know, so do you have a listing, a great listing that you want to promote while we're here?
Oh boy. Actually, I have one listing one listing right now. I have a land listing, but then I have a listing in Wells, Maine, in a summer community. It's brand new construction, um, and it's a park model, which are great, and it's great for those people that aren't looking to do a lot of maintenance and have pools at the ready and not have to worry about having a year-round place that they have to maintain twice a year. And that's at Seaview South. Yeah, which is, people love that community so much that live there.
So I have one in Baxter Lake Recreation Area, $135,000, nothing, seasonal.
Same price
100
range
feet,
for me.
except that I've gotten well over 100 contacts because they want it to be a year-round home.
Yes.
I wouldn't mind $100,000 year-round home, but it just can't be done.
I would love like $100,000 year-round home.
That's right.
I'd buy 5 of them.
Exactly. Well, of course, that was my house 20 years ago. And my first house, of course, I lived in Manhattan for 16 years, then Boston for 5 years, came up here 20 years ago, and I bought this waterfront for, 140,000.
Wow.
But that's when I discovered what seasonal meant, because I didn't know what that meant when I moved in January.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah. That would be it's kind of like living in an RV in the winter. It's really tough.
Yes, with a better bathroom. But I think now people are way more educated because they can be. And sometimes that's good and bad. Do you find, a lot of people are experts, even though they're not?
Yes, actually, especially with the advent of AI and ChatGPT, and what AI doesn't realize is that all real estate is hyper local.
Yep.
So oftentimes the things that they're telling, not necessarily the potential seller, it would be the potential seller's siblings, let's just say, who are looking out for that person.
I see. Yes, that's interesting.
The information isn't necessarily correct for that community or that area. It's just really interesting what they are being told as opposed to what the actual data says for the area.
So you find, originally it was Zestimates with Zillow. Everyone used Zestimates. Now, of course, I do a lot of waterfronts, and there's a gigantic difference between Lake Winnipesaukee and Lock Lake.
Huge, yeah.
Yeah, like $1 million at least. And appraisers, sometimes they don't know either, because since the listing agent is the only one who meets the appraiser, part of our job is to make sure they know what they're looking at.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've had that happen. I had 2 listings that on paper looked exactly the same amount of acreage, same home, same style, same, basically identical. One was in the western part of New Hampshire, one was in the eastern part of New Hampshire. Both appraisers came from out of state. The Vermont appraiser said there is excess land, and that's not how it works in New Hampshire, and would not revisit it when it came in very, very low. This was a while ago. The appraiser on the eastern side of the state came from Maine and was super happy to learn about New Hampshire current use and how it works. And that one appraised at or above the agreed upon purchase price.
Interesting. And I've seen reports, they just say, oh, well, the house across the street sold for this from a waterfront, and they made a $50,000 adjustment for the waterfront.
Ooh. It doesn't work like that.
No, I know.
No. And I understand their job is to look back. Our job is to look forward. However, we are in the education game from the very beginning until we close, and in with everyone we were working with.
That's true. And so, and I'm not sure that people know that that's part of what we do. And I think that, I've had the comments from sellers. Let's say a property sold for 10,000 less than they wanted. And the expectation from the seller is like, well, we're losing $10,000. So we want you to reduce your commission by 1%. So then we say, this is how I approach it. I say, okay, why don't we reduce it by the same percentage? So that 10,000 from your $400,000 is what percent? It's 0.0 whatever. So well, let's take 1.0 something percent of the total commission, because 1% of a 4% is 25% reduction.
Right.
Or, so it's like, but the market's telling us,
Exactly. I think also when we are good at what we do, they don't see most of what we do. And we keep everyone and everything in check, including emotions. I had a client who decided to get his real estate license. He joined the team that I had at the time. And 3 months into his realtor journey, he said, I knew you worked hard. I had no idea what you actually did. And he said, I underpaid you. And anyone that I've worked with who actually sees a lot of what I do, they all say the same thing. I'm sure you have that as well, Mike.
Oh, yeah. 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 Well, my very first, or I'm going to say my second listing was a for sale by owner. I walked up to them. They didn't know who I was. They didn't know I lived down the street. They had a for sale by owner, and I found out they lived in Nashua. And I said, so what happens if somebody calls and wants to see your property? And you're in Nashua, and you're teachers, Well, we'll just come up and, and I said, okay. I just made it very simple. I said, well, why don't you let me sell it, reduce the price 30,000 and pay our company 5%, and I'll sell it. Now, I'd been in the business for 3 days, so I guess, I was an expert, right? They go, who is this guy? Well, I sold it, and I've now done 9 transactions with them.
There you go. Isn't that the beauty thing about being new is you're not afraid of anything at that point.
Right. Well, I was afraid of not having any.
That is true. But good for you for throwing that out. That was awesome.
It was kind of ballsy, and actually at the time, it was in Northwood, and my manager at the time, because I was in the Portsmouth Coldwell Banker, they didn't know much about Northwood. It's in the middle of nowhere, kind of, sort of. They said, nobody's going to, buy that house for much. So he bet me, and I sold it in a week, and he had to pay me money. Well, he had to pay me money anyway.
That's even better. And Northwood is great. It's a great community, and there's a lot of water in the area.
Yeah, there's 9 lakes, and my first one was a waterfront down the street, which I got in the first day, and I sold in 7 days, and I had no idea. I didn't even know how to fill out the form. It was like, I'm calling somebody, but it's our stories that we have. And of course, I had a mentor who's been doing the business since 1967. So I learned so much, still do, from her. She's in the business, Kathy. And I think it's helpful to have somebody like that,
It really is. I have 5 people that I mentor, and yeah, there's a lot of questions. A lot of questions, and it's good. I have no desire for them to be sued. And if they don't ask the questions, they will likely find out the hard way, and it's going to cost them a lot of money.
Well, as my daughter told me when she was 10, the only dumb question is the one not asked. So, you know what my life has been like. So, but, and we're still learning. I mean, different, especially, appraisals, or not appraisals, so much inspections. Everything's changed. Now everything's changed with the whole shoreline stuff,
Yes.
And septics.
Yes, it has. And honestly, there are never 2 transactions that are exactly the same. I mean, you're still learning. I'm certainly still learning. And that's one of the things that I find so appealing about what we do is we really have to be learning based.
That's right. Because once you are the expert, you're not.
Exactly. Yeah. It's true. And I rely on a host of different people to ask different questions to, depending on what it is and where they might have expertise. Whereas there are people in the office who come to me, I know a lot about land. So I tend to be the person that they come to when they have questions.
So the people who come to me for land, so far it's about 12 bogus landowners.
Oh, there's a
They
lot of
don't
that
own the
lately.
land. Yeah, oh, it's just terrible. And I at least try to reach out to find the actual owner. Sometimes that's not easy because then they know right away that their identity's been breached
Mm-hmm.
and they appreciate it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because they're getting good. I mean, the counterfeit driver's license, it's perfect.
Yes.
But with talking to the police and a friend with the FBI, he's like, you can do this. And if you try to go through the end to try to get them to a table thinking that they're going to collect money, they'll call it entrapment.
Oh, interesting.
Isn't
Huh.
that interesting?
Usually, I'm.
And so I said, you got to be kidding. I mean, this is like a serious, somebody's trying to steal this guy's money. Now I've had it from the opposite where my client was one looking at the land and wanted my opinion, and the land was purchased or it was being sort of resold through a wholesaler
Okay.
who has nothing about nothing. And I discovered it was he was about to plunk you know $300,000 down
Wow.
cash. Well, it has to be cash, I'm told. And of course it does because so I'm working on a plan that I call it the LSP, which is the land scam plan. It kind of sounds like LSD. And
Slightly
it's,
different, I'm sure.
well, I hope so. And it's to have a small lien on your property. The scammers won't even bother.
That's true. My grandfather did that. He would get to a point where he was nearly finished paying off his house, and then he would take out a small HELOC on it, and that way he. I mean, this is a long, long time ago, but however, it protected his assets, so somebody couldn't just come in and grab it if they wanted to.
Yeah, and to know that way back then is great.
Mm-hmm.
And I encourage. I mean, there's so many programs out there that are inexpensive, but I'm working with some people to try to see if that's you can approach all kinds of. You have the buyers, the sellers who love the idea they owe no money on their property, like it's saving them a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. It's not really protecting them though, especially
No,
not today. And usually when I tend to get a lot of emails like that.
every day for me.
Yeah, and usually there's something that's slightly off. There's like a grammatical error basically, or a word that doesn't sit the way we speak in America.
Of
And
course, that could be coming from me because it's not like I don't know how to spell. I just can't type.
well, there is that. And however, it's an unusual thing that foreign
Yeah.
speakers would have. That is what I've noticed. And then their emails every day internally in the office about everybody's getting these people who are trying to scam them. And I think that the New Hampshire Association of Realtors has really been working on this as well.
Yep. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, and then there's creepy scammers. I mean, it can be a dangerous business.
Absolutely.
And I've run into absolute pathological liars, complete, total liars. I mean, to the point where they knew so much about the property and they were coming and, oh, I don't have my check for the deposit. And I was like, well, whatever. And I sold my house. I actually drove down to his house to see all the foreclosure signs on the house.
Oh my.
He was completely bogus. But I had a roommate who was pathological and they really believe what they say.
That's wild to me.
Not that that's happening in politics or anything these days, but it's
We're not going to go there. We're not
absolutely
going there.
not. Hopefully never. But it's a weird thing because we're dealing with people and emotions. I'm sure you found that buyers and sellers can somehow start hating each other even though they've never met.
Oh yeah. I think for so many people it's a winner take all.
Right.
And
They're
basically,
screwing me. I said, well,
yeah.
you agreed to the purchase. Well, I can't believe it.
And that's I find that's rarely. It does happen. It's
Yeah.
very rare. And there's just a lot of misunderstanding. And I mean that's also one of the reasons they hire us is to take the emotion out of the transaction.
Oh, yeah, there's some buyers I just could not respond to the seller what I was being told.
Hmm.
Just now,
Oh
of
yeah.
course, I have my little bling that's like I'm not the only loon in the lake here.
Oh yeah.
Well, there are some clients I could not give it to.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be difficult. It can be a challenge. My degree in psychology has come in. I never thought I would use it, and I use it a lot.
So that's interesting. So you had a degree in psychology, an
Yes,
actual. See, I was in advertising in New York, and advertising is psychology.
it absolutely is.
And
Yeah.
so in college, I took psychology classes just because I thought it'd be interesting anyway. But it really helps to have. Of
It really does.
course, I could just look at my own family of five of us. So it's like, it's, I had my own experience. But I'd also believe that we try to bring real life experience into the real estate experience. You're dealing with emotions, all that kind of stuff. Not always easy.
It's not always easy. And yeah, I do my best to take a step back and look at the big picture and understand the best way to approach my client with it and have them understand or be more understanding of the big picture as well. Fortunately, we live in an area where most people are not trying to take advantage of one another, that most people are inherently good hearted. Um,
Yes.
and I try
Well,
to live by that.
well, that's New Hampshire, and I'm from Michigan. We all like each other and have a dry sense of humor.
Of
But
course.
I was a Dale Carnegie instructor for a little tiny bit, and one of the things that you learn is that you don't want to react to things. Those are allergies I didn't know I had. You don't want to react to what's going on sometimes. And people sometimes, well, I'm kind of even keel and emotional, but by waiting to let it cool down, and this is with clients,
Hmm.
sometimes it helps, because I had in New York, I had a boss who just was absolutely just it was all about confrontation. And my family, we didn't even know what confrontation was, because we just had fun instead. What I found is by me not reacting, it drove him nuts because it meant I actually had power
Oh,
over
you have
him.
so much power. Yeah.
Yeah. Inside, I was like, what am I going to do? This guy's going to kill me. But, in a transaction situation, there have been times when I'm sure you've had to make sure that the buyer and the seller were not in the same room.
Yes. And there are times, I mean, not all agents are responsive either. There are times where I've been screaming inside and just lowered my voice to a whisper. And they started screaming, and I was like, "Woo, better them than me."
So my mentor put it well, because she's seen everything. And people would scream and yell, and she would just say, "Do you feel better now?" No. Oh, okay. Just let me know when you feel better. And then it's like, "Oh, are you done?" Oh no. Okay, just wait until you're done. It just completely took the onus off of whatever because it wasn't going to help anything that the whole screaming and
Never
yelling.
does.
No.
And it doesn't make you feel better at the end of the day either.
Well, my one of my first transactions was a divorce situation. They literally had not seen each other or talked to each other in 3 years. And one's in Massachusetts who only cared about getting $40,000. Didn't matter how, so she would be happy that the house sold for 50, and it started with the seller already sold it to the next door neighbor, and then legally he couldn't. So then I got the listing and I sold it for 85,000 more than he sold it to the next door neighbor, who was also my neighbor, but who had to then unsell their house. It was so complicated. But the important thing is these people did not communicate at all. And so when it did go under agreement finally and we closed, I said, what am I going to do? Oh, I know. We'll go to the registry at Brentwood because there's lots of police. And and I picked a little table next to the vending machine where all the police and everybody else got their candy while we did the closing.
Oh,
And
that's a great idea.
that was the first time they'd seen each other in 3.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody killed anybody. But that's psychology that
Mm-hmm. I recently had, yeah, they hadn't seen each other in 6 years. They didn't really communicate, and I brought them coffee. They managed okay, but as soon as the closing was over, they both bolted. And I'm surprised they could sit at the table together as long as they did. I'm glad that they did.
well, they need to because it's a closure for them too.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as they all the way to the last second, they didn't have any closure. So now this is the closure.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had like a foreclosure was going to happen if he didn't sign the contract, and it was going to be of no purpose. It would hurt him just as much as her financially if it went into foreclosure. And he just thought, he showed up in his Cadillac and he just thought, well, I'm just going to screw it to her. I said, you aren't really screwing it to her. You're screwing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And she had no money. I mean, she literally no money. And she was in Florida. And I said, look, go to call a banker down their office. They'll make copies for you. I mean, it was just awful, terrible.
Hmm.
Uh, but he just was being spiteful.
Yeah, it's how it happens. It's
Terrible.
unfortunate when it does. It is
Yeah.
terrible.
So, how much do you like water? As much as me?
Probably. Yeah, I didn't get out in the water this morning. I took an 8-mile bike ride along the beach, however. Yeah.
Well, that's 8 more miles than I've done, like, I don't know, ever. Well, that's good. So, you're near the beach.
Yeah, I'm about a quarter mile from Long Sands in York. Yeah, I was in the water for 4.5 hours yesterday.
Is it cold-ish?
It's warm-ish, surprisingly.
You
Yeah.
mean like the top 10 inches and then your feet go below that? And
My feet were pretty warm. There are no booties, no gloves, summer suit, and I was really quite warm, surprisingly.
oh,
Yeah, it
that's
was
good.
good.
That's good. Well, I think that water is the natural healer of everything.
I agree. Very
You
much
know?
so.
And so, I'm always lucky. Of course, I like waterfront buyers because they like nature, you know,
Hmm.
and everything that comes with it. Now, I don't necessarily like the Canadian goose that come on my beach,
And nobody does.
but I have a solution.
And what do you do?
So my wife was learning to, at Empire to become a hairdresser. So they practice on all these heads with real human hair.
Oh.
I put them on the beach. They don't like it.
Oh.
It's one of the weirdest things you've ever seen. Of
I
course,
have
you can
no.
imagine I had some kayakers taking pictures. I'm sure they're going to report me to somewhere that there's these dead bodies, buried neck high into the beach.
Maybe, or you're going to end up all over social media.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I did send a picture to the DES. I said, hey, I may have found a solution.
I'm sure they got a good laugh out of it.
They did. And that's okay.
Exactly. Well, it beats having to clean up the mess after them.
Oh, it's terrible. Terrible. And I've got a story of when there were 14 of them on my beach, and I walked over to them and I said, I like Canada. I just don't like the geese. And so they all scattled off, and then 3 came back going, no, 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 you're going the wrong way. And I had this on video, and turns out that one of them had a fishing line wrapped around its beak.
Oh.
And then the other 2 were going to kill me. So, but I couldn't let, so I literally reeled in this goose. The other 2 were going to kill me. And I'm by myself. I'm going, I can't do this by me. What am I going to do? So I called the cops. I said, this is going to be the weirdest request, but I'm sure you have nothing else to do other than be on a nice waterfront to help me get a goose. And I said, besides, you have a gun, and this other goose, these two geese want to kill me. So he came, and we reeled it in. I threw a towel over its head. The other ones are going to kill me, but then they realized that we were actually trying to help, and cut it loose, and they took off and didn't come back for the rest of the year. They forgot about that story the next year, but that's okay.
They always
Now
forget
they
the
got
next
heads.
year.
Now they got to deal with heads. I have actually seen a family of goose go around my dock and look and went, oh, okay, we're just going to go back this way.
Oh, that's so funny.
So who knows? Maybe I have a trend.
I don't know. On occasion, when I'm sitting out on my surfboard, I'll hear it first, but then I'll look and yeah, there are loons. That's one of my favorite sounds is when the loons
Yes.
are calling.
Well, as I said, it's by no accident that I have this. So loons
Exactly.
are my absolute favorite. On Golden Pond, our family had a cottage up in Canada. The loons would come up. Well, I mean, I've had loons come right up to my boat, and I hear it all night here. I'm on Fernald Basin, which is the basin separated by the rail trail from Lake Wentworth. So that's my terrible view every day,
Oh, that's awful.
I know, it's just awful. I just can't stand it. It's just
Oh
terrible.
gosh, that's terrible.
I know.
It's killing
I
me.
know. I know. I know. I know. I didn't want to scare you. It's oh, it looks better if I'm not in the picture. Look, the skies
It's
are
beautiful. What a great view you have.
So is there anything special you want people to know about you? You obviously do a lot of referrals.
I do a lot of referrals. I actually work with a lot of referrals that come to me from outside of Keller Williams.
Yep, me too. Yeah.
Which is fabulous.
Well, I mean, the best advertising is a referral,
It
basically.
was a referral. There are very few people that I've worked with that I wouldn't work with again, or that don't work with me again. Oftentimes it's 4, 5, 6 transactions.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's really nice. It's the best feeling in the world when you get a call from someone and they say, oh, so-and-so told me to give you a call because you're the best at what you do. And I mean, I sell a lot of unique homes, which is really great. And I love them. I feel I hesitate to use this word, but I feel incredibly blessed to get to do what I do and to work with the people that I work with. Yeah. And
So you had a 6-month thing where you couldn't walk, which I can't even imagine what that's like.
It's not fun.
No, I'm sure. Actually, I had a client that thought he wouldn't be able to walk for the rest of his life, so he created a studio, like a theater in his house, and had every DVD movie ever. And then he could walk. And then he had this incredible library of, whatever. Very few people need it. But you have a life change like that. And for me, I had a criteria as a little kid of what I wanted to do, which wasn't I wanted to be a fireman. It was I wanted to do something where I dealt with different people every single day. I wasn't sitting behind a desk. I got to use my creative brain as well, which is because the marketing I do is a little different, because I can do it, the videos and the books, and things like that. But that I met different kinds of people all the time. So
this is perfect.
Advertising was perfect. And then real estate is an extension of advertising, and having the freedom. So that's nice. And you have the freedom too. So, but it's not for everybody to have a commission-based kind of a business,
It's not for most people. You have to be highly disciplined and you have to be willing to work for the unknown.
Yep.
It's a lot. I get to work from home. I'm really good at that.
Well, the other thing is that somebody mentioned this word. I wasn't sure what it meant. I think he said weekend. How's your weekend? There is no end to the week.
No, there isn't.
There's no weekend.
There isn't.
But I've also, every time I've gone to Michigan visit my family, I sell a house here. So it's like, because you can.
Exactly. I mean, I've lived away out of the country on a boat for months at a time and still been able to work here, which is just fabulous. We have an amazing amount of freedom.
That's correct. And we have Wi-Fi. So how do people find you? Your website, information?
Website, blog, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, signs. You
And
just
it's
look at Tim Heaney. Who else has a? I don't know anyone else in real estate who's has such a fun name.
Tina Heaney?
Tina Heaney. Yeah,
That's how you pronounce it? So it's not Haney, it's Heaney?
it's Heaney. Yeah, yeah,
I like
Heaney.
Tina Heaney.
I
Tina
like
Heaney.
Tina Heaney. It took me a long time to like it. I like it a lot
Well,
now.
that's okay. But you're a teeny weeny too, right? You're a teeny weeny Heaney. You don't look
For
very
some
big.
of my friends, yes, I definitely am.
That's okay. I'm just Mike Travis.
Exactly.
Well, actually, as I said, I started this business as not Michael Travis, as Waterfront agent, because I figured, who's Michael Travis? But Waterfront agent could mean something to somebody.
Yeah, and you could be anywhere with Waterfront.
That's right. I paid $7,000 for that domain, but that's okay. So, well, anyway, I think we've covered a lot. I mean, we're in the same business, kind of the same areas. I mean, you have a very high end area. Bedford is a very well respected area to be working primarily. But you're also in Maine, York,
Mhm.
which is a wonderful area.
Yeah, I love it. I love living here.
Yeah. Well, certainly living in New Hampshire changed my life from Manhattan and Boston
Hmm.
and Michigan too. But, it's the same thing. So I think we're all lucky because we're surrounded by trees, 86% trees or something like that, 1,300 lakes, 20,000 miles of rivers and mountains that are everywhere. So I'm with you. I love doing this job because it is my job. Of
Hmm.
course, I also own a restaurant and, come on, like I'm not busy enough. So, well, it was very nice talking to you and meeting you again.
You as
And
well, Michael.
you have an incredible day. It's a beautiful day to be out on the beach.
It will be. I actually am heading to Bedford as once we're off. Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, you have a good day. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Waterfront Agent Podcast. I'll be back with some more stories, tips, and expert interviews, and hopefully some humor. So make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode.